Joining me now is Mark Osmack. He is running in Missouri's 2nd District, and he is running against an incumbent, Ann Wagner, who is a Republican. Mark, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Hi, Cenk. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Great to have you here. So, Mark, today I was asked by the Washington Post about what were some metrics for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's win, which was now already an instant classic, a legendary win for progressives over an establishment Democrat in that case. And I said that there are metrics that the media is not looking at that they need to look at to see who among the progressives can win, including the number of volunteers and the number of door knocks, because Ocasio-Cortez knocked on tens of thousands of doors and it made a giant difference in her district. So, Mark, how do you stack up in those categories?
I think pretty well. So I would say just congratulations to her. I think what she did, knocking on doors, made the difference. For us, we've been running for about 11 months now, and at this moment, we've knocked on over 14,000 doors. And so that has been our plan from the very beginning, is to meet and engage with as many people in this district as possible. Volunteers, the message works. Our message has been clear and bold and courageous from the very beginning, and people have responded to that. And so we've been really humbled from the very beginning to people have done since we started off and kicked off 11 months ago.
So, Mark, let's talk about your policies. So, again, there's a debate with the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi says, no, we're not as progressive as Ocasio-Cortez. And New York Times just featured Brent Welder, another progressive running in Kansas, saying he's proudly for single payer, he's proudly for $15 minimum wage, et cetera. And whereas some of his Democratic opponents say that they want to lead from the middle, and that they are not in favor of, for example, Medicare for all. So where do you stand on all that?
I stand unabashed Medicare for all, period. And so I think for those who don't, especially those who are elected, and this is not a party issue in this instance, but I do find it very troubling that people who are elected to Congress right now, whether they be Democrat or Republican, have access and to affordable health care that their constituents do not. So I've been in the Army and Army Reserves for 10 years. And so what I pay for TRICARE Select is $46.09 a month. And I just don't think you have to join the military or go to Congress to get that kind of rate. And for me, there is no pre-existing condition check, and I know exactly how much I'm going to pay before I go to my doctor. I know how much my prescriptions are going to cost. And look, if that's extended to service members as leaders, I think we should go last. We make sure everyone else is taken care of first before we go. So I think this nation is moving that way. I know that I am, but yes, I am 100% for Medicare for all, and we can truly do this.
So, Mark, I love that. When I went to go do civil disobedience in Washington to get money out of politics, the leaders of the movement, which included me in that case, we got arrested last. That means that it took the longest to get to us. And there's a saying, leaders eat last. And I told my son that, and he's like, well, then I don't want to be a leader because I'm hungry.
He'll change.
But you're absolutely right. You know, if the military look, and it's not like the military is treated that well. The defense contractors are treated brilliantly, but a lot of people coming into the military make $19,000 the first year. But at least we have the decency to offer them decent health care. And why not for the rest of us? And Medicare, it works, and it's incredibly popular, 77% popularity. Why not the rest of us? So now, but touching on your military service a little bit more, you're for a ban on military-style assault weapons. Now, you are in Missouri. Is that going to fly over there? And does your experience at all inform that decision? Why did you come to that conclusion?
So I think it does fly, but I came to that conclusion because it's one of necessity. There was a gentleman I met, and this is not to be a Joe the Plumber story, but there's a gentleman I met at a Moms Demand Action meeting, and he stood up, and this took a lot of guts on his part. He said, I'm an NRA member. I have been my entire life. My dad was his entire life before he passed. And when he passed, this gentleman inherited his father's rifles and guns. And he had no use for them, and so he wanted to sell them. And this gentleman was alarmed at how easily and quickly he could sell those weapons with no check. There was no requirement for him, and so that's what got him interested in, as an NRA card-carrying member, into Moms Demand Action, which is not anti-Second Amendment, but it is common sense. And so that's what they call for. That's what I call for. You shouldn't be able to buy asparagus as easily as you can buy, or a weapon as easily as you can buy something from the grocery store. So there are common sense things we can do. And look, the way I look at it, again, from a leadership perspective, from the military and even before, if we should be able to explain our positions to everybody. That doesn't mean people are going to agree with it, but bottom line, to be very blunt, if I can't explain, or if Roy Blunt or if Representative Ann Wagner can't explain the current position for gun rights in this nation to a family who just lost a loved one, whether it be a child from a school shooting or someone who was killed, which, by the way, St. Louis has the highest murder rate in the nation. If they can't explain that loss to them and why the gun laws have remained unchanged, that's a problem. So my personal standard for policy, of which I do love policy, if I can't explain it to someone and look into their eyes, same thing with immigration or in gun violence, if I can't explain that to them, then it has no business being there. We do need to take another look at this.
All right, well, speaking of blunts, you want to end the war on drugs. I asked you if that's going to fly in Missouri, but Oklahoma just legalized medical marijuana. So, but I am curious, how does that play in your district?
It's playing well. I mean, so this district is very heavily suburban. It is the most, as far as there are 8 congressional districts in Missouri, and this has the most average per capita bachelor's degrees or higher, and also the highest per capita earnings, which does not mean that it's not without its own concerns, because they are there. But I was stationed in Oklahoma at Fort Sill for much longer than I would like, and I'm amazed that they passed it. Look, Missouri, their motto is the show me state. Not to be too playful, but I want to become the show you state and what we can do to move forward and be progressive and forward leaning. No, not everyone is going to be ready for this, but that's okay. We have to move in a certain direction. There's no reason for people to be issued opioids, which is a whole other issue, but be issued or prescribed opioids whenever there's something else that could alleviate their pain. That is not addictive. And this is coming from someone who's never smoked marijuana, ever. That said, I don't think it's bad. I have beers, and so there was once a time when beers were considered, or liquor or whiskey were considered amoral and unethical, and were illegal. But we got past that, and so I think this is something that, honestly, reefer madness, and the government has been very good at making seem a horrific thing when in all actuality is not. And to be clear, this does not take away the rights of a company or an organization to say, hey, look, our standard, if you want to have a beer or a glass of wine, that's fine, but we do not allow you to smoke weed. That's fine. For instance, even if the nation legalized marijuana, I cannot smoke it. So it's not saying it's a free-for-all, but I think there are things that we can do in a progressive and a thoughtful manner that allow this to come in and to decriminalize it. Look, people should not be in jail because they had joints on them. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Jail should be for violent offenders and nobody else. And for those who do struggle with substance abuse issues, it should be treatment, not incarceration.
All right, I love that Mark Osmack is running as a progressive in a district that has a Republican incumbent, and he's obviously, as you can tell from this conversation, not afraid to tell you that and to defend his positions. So markosmack.com is the website, and let's put up the links here. You can find out how to donate and to volunteer there. If you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook, you'll be able to click on the links down below in the description box. If you're watching live, markosmack.com, just go right now and find out more about Mark's campaign. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.